In video games, there is one type of enemy that we fear above all others: the boss. Super powerful with special weapons and attacks, and usually their own cutscenes to establish their dominance, bosses are the epitome of intimidation, which is why it's such a treat when a game offers us a chance to play as these gods of gaming and try out a little of that power for ourselves. Here are 7 terrifying video game bosses that you also got to play as. Enjoy, and beware spoilers ahead for the following games.
Gears of War is full of horrifying monstrosities, so wildly, grossly out of proportion that they're deeply unsettling to look at. Yes, I'm talking about Marcus Phoenix and his massive friends.
You! Traitor like you doesn't deserve to wear the uniform.
Looks to me like you need all the help you can get.
Not a single neck between them. In fact, the hostile forces of the Locust, who spend the entire game battling, look much the same, only with lizardy skin and weird faces. All that is except the truly terrifying leader of the Locust forces, General Rahm, with his big gothic coat and an underbite for the ages. Maybe someone told him biting your lip was sexy and he just picked the wrong lip. Rahm serves as the final boss in the original Gears of War, standing his ground on a speeding train as your squad attempts to deliver the light mass bomb to destroy the Locust's outer hollows. He's such a hard bastard that it took literally yeeting the train along with his corpse into a big pool of goopy emulsion to ensure he wasn't coming back for some sort of post-credits reveal. The Gears of War 3 DLC, called Rahm's Shadow, gives us an idea of why they wanted to be sure. While you mainly play as the human Zeta squad, you also get a few opportunities to play as Rahm himself, and let me tell you, this guy is a one-man wrecking crew.
Smash through their defenses.
Battering Rahm. I get it. Rahm has his enormous knife for close-range combat and is protected from bullets by a whirling swarm of krill, who will happily absorb incoming fire. Perhaps most formidable is his ability to fire those krill towards enemies from a distance, instantly turning them into a person smoothie.
Cleanse the area of all opposition.
And if you were in any doubt as to just how evil General Rahm is, the human characters in this DLC are rescuing a bunch of children from an orphanage. Not only that, but the orphanage is called the Children's School of Hope.
Oh, thank God, Gears. I thought we'd never get out of time.
Bit on the nose. Does Rahm have a nose? It's not important.
Cassandra! Time to hunt! Hardly worth the effort. Let's wrap this up quickly.
When Capcom's Resident Evil Village was first announced, there was one thing that most fans were focusing on. No, it wasn't the return of protagonist Ethan Winters, or the apparent betrayal of Chris Redfield, or even the fact that it apparently had werewolves in it. It was the tall vampire lady.
I regret to inform you that Ethan Winters has escaped that fool Heisenberg.
Standing 9'6" in her high heels and having a personality that consists of moany innuendo and hurling furniture about the place, people were drawn to Lady D, despite the fact that she is an objectively terrifying monster who spends a good portion of the early part of the game trying to impale you or cut off your limbs, and sometimes succeeding. And so it was a banner day for certain fans of Resident Evil Village when the Mercenaries Extra Orders DLC was announced to include, for the first time ever, playable Lady Dimitrescu. Even though she was just a selectable character for the bonus Time Attack Mercenaries mode, it's extremely cool to take control of Lady D and get a proper look at what she can do. Obviously there are your standard claw attacks, but she also has what is known as a thrill gauge, which when filled to various levels allows you to summon swarms of flies, her daughters, and of course hurl a dresser across the room. You can also apply lipstick.
Don't resist. Yes! More!
And down glasses of wine. Take note, all future playable Resident Evil characters. This is how it's done.
Having a little trouble up there?
Joker.
You're expecting maybe Two-Face?
There's no escape, Joker.
Silly bat! I don't want to escape. I'm having way too much fun. I even have you here to keep a smile on my face.
With the Batman game's dark, brooding atmosphere, the Arkham series Rogues Gallery appear to be competing for the title of scariest Batman villain. There's the Scarecrow, obviously, but he's a bit straightforward. There's Two-Face, but he's really only 50% scary. And then there's Killer Croc, who certainly commits to the jump scares.
You are not welcome here.
But doesn't actually want to commit to murdering you.
I don't need to fight you, Batman. I just need to wait, and then I will feed on your corpse.
Your name is Killer Croc, not wait around until they die, Croc. What the hell? For our money though, the scariest Batman villain is actually the Joker, because he's a lethal combination of intelligent, calculating, and yet totally unpredictable.
You fell for the old fake Joker gang, Batman.
Tell you!
I'm sorry, beloved. I didn't know.
Encore! More! Bravo!
You know, I'm also starting to think this Joker guy isn't that funny. Do we need to rename all of the Batman villains? One of the more unpredictable things Joker does over the course of the first Arkham game is to fire a shot of the unstable Titan toxin into his chin, turning him into a giant muscular version of himself and acting as the final boss.
Showtime, Batman!
Again, not finding this terribly funny. When Arkham Origins arrived 4 years later to tell a prequel story, imagine our surprise when for a brief period in the story mode, as Joker is talking to Dr. Harleen Quinzel, we stepped into the pointy, probably purple shoes of the Clown Prince himself. And in spite of his skinny frame, he proves himself more than capable of taking care of an entire room full of thugs.
Isn't it funny how one little encounter can cleave off little pieces of your past, deform your memories and persona to rethink your whole identity?
What he lacks in punchlines, he makes up in punching lines. Of men. Joker is also playable in the game's multiplayer and Predator challenge modes. Though if you're playing a silent takedowns only run, it's less an expert display of martial arts and more him running around kicking people in the crotch and doing a little dance. I've got the perfect new name for him. Dancing Testicle Smasher. But is it too literal?
If you've ever played a Zelda game, you'll be familiar with Ganon, perennial series boss, hogger of the Triforce of Power, and Ginger icon. Generally, you'll only encounter Ganon in the game's final boss fight, first in his human form as Ganondorf, and then at some point in one of his other forms, such as the pig-like Ganon. But for all those Zelda games over all those years, all players could do was fight Ganon. There were scant options to play as him until 2014's Hyrule Warriors came along. The most warmly received of all the Dynasty Warriors style spin-offs, Hyrule Warriors blended Omega Force's overblown hack and slash with all the charm and whimsy of the Zelda universe. It also included a large cast of playable characters taken from heroes from across the series, along with a few notable villains sprinkled into the mix, such as our boy Ganondorf. As you'd expect, having battled him in countless Zelda games, Ganondorf is slow but super strong, and fights with 2 swords, or a trident, as well as magic, being able to use a shadow hand attack to slam enemies into the ground. He can also summon down lightning from the sky, and fittingly for the wielder of the Triforce of Power, is one of the most powerful characters in the game. If that's not enough for you, the sequel, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, allowed you to unlock a playable version of Calamity Ganon, the final boss of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a similarly brutal powerhouse with the key distinction that he's on fire all the time. hasn't improved his temperament at all, if you were wondering.
Then what are you looking for? A demon that impregnates a woman who then bears twin sons. That's the story, isn't it?
Imagine having been introduced to half-demon dreamboat Dante in Devil May Cry 1, only for it to be revealed later on that he has an equally handsome identical twin brother. These guys won the genetic lottery and then split the winnings. Having been corrupted by a demon called Mundus, Dante's blue coat-wearing brother Virgil is the on-again, off-again antagonist in the series, and in his Nello Angelo form, he acts as the boss of the first game. Seems a little more than the usual sibling bickering. Confusingly, the third game in the series, Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening, actually serves as a prequel to the first game, and in it we get to see how Virgil ended up at odds with Dante and eventually cast into the demon world to face Mundus.
If my father did it, I should be able to do it too.
Just because your dad knew how to do something doesn't mean you do. Just look at literally any of my attempts at DIY. The game was re-released a year later in 2006 as Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition, and with it came the option to play through the entire game on a separate save file as Virgil. Later in the game, you even get to play as Virgil's terrifying Nello Angelo alter ego, complete with the exact same moveset that gave you nightmares in the final boss battle of the first game. Before you get too excited though, this wasn't a whole new storyline giving us greater insight into Virgil's motivation. All the cutscenes were removed, and in the in-game scripted scenes, Virgil behaves exactly the same way Dante does, keepy-uppies and all. But at the very least, you'd have thought that maybe the boss battles against Virgil would have been swapped out for someone else. Nope, you end up fighting yourself, only now the Virgil boss is wearing red instead of blue, so you know which one is you. But as we all know, red is what your identical twin Dante wears. Guys, I'm gonna blow your mind. There's this colour called green.
Don't let a single one get away!
If the Super Smash Bros. Series was said to have a main enemy, most players would agree it's Nintendo's consistent refusal to allow Waluigi to be in it. If we're talking in terms of characters though, it's definitely Master Hand, the massive disembodied gloved hand that serves as the final boss of Classic Mode in most Smash Bros. Games. Despite being just a big hand, Master Hand is a formidable opponent who will smack you silly for having the temerity to try and finish Classic Mode in a Smash Bros. Game. So much so that you'll feel like you deserve a big hand after beating him. Be careful what you wish for, is what I'd say. Anyway, rumours abounded for many years that there were secret methods to unlock Master Hand as a playable character, and even a few glitches that could be exploited to sort of make that a reality. But in 2018, Master Hand finally became playable in a special event in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's World of Light mode.
Ready?
In this event, you play as Master Hand and for a brief moment get to experience the awesome power of just absolutely owning everyone on screen as you slap them into the middle distance, crush them with your fists, and shoot finger lasers at everyone, safe in the knowledge that you're the toughest thing on screen by a considerable margin. The fact that you can just sort of hover and float around the place is a big plus too. Once you've crushed 50 opponents, the event ends and it's back to being regular old not giant hand characters, but we'll always have those brief moments where we were crushing tiny idiots with our giant fists, like the Incredible Hulk playing whack-a-mole.
Victory!
All that, and we still don't know whose hand this is. Wait a minute. It's all starting to make sense now.
No longer shall I sojourn toward the light. Nay, the path I intend to tread is paved with blood and darkness.
Final Fantasy XV's final boss, Ardyn Izunia, is a millennia-old immortal who threatens the world, wields the power to turn people into demons, and worst of all, looks like he runs an online course on how to pick up women.
I feel I've earned the right to call you not.
I bet the one weird trick is, like, really weird. Ardyn is the guy who is basically ruining the sweet bachelor party road trip bro holiday that kicks off Final Fantasy XV. And while that isn't the most important reason he needs to be stopped, it is a reason.
Everything in order?
Yep.
So, as Prince Noctis, off you head with your loyal bros in tow in a quest to defeat smug jerk Ardyn, culminating in a spectacular battle where you both fly around the place like two anime heroes playing The Floor is Lava. In the end, Noctis' latent magical powers are unleashed, and in the final scene, you press a single button which creates an army of ghost knights who disintegrate Ardyn. He's not that immortal if I can destroy him by tapping a button. But there's always a chance that Ardyn is just misunderstood, and that maybe spending a bit of time playing as him would help us see things from his perspective. Well, a full 2 years after the game was released, its final DLC, Episode Ardyn, gave us the opportunity to do just that.
Time to set to work.
In it, we discovered more about his affliction called Star Scourge, which caused him to be exiled from his family, denied his royal lineage, and thrown into jail. We also learned that he had spent the last 2,000 years imprisoned, which is how we feel every time we settle in for another season of The Simpsons. So after a 3-hour journey through Ardyn's pain and torment during the DLC, does he come across as a more understandable and relatable character? A product of his environment rather than someone inherently evil? A tragic and unwilling villain, perhaps?
Oh, I'm no mortal. I'm a monster.
I mean, or a literal monster. That works too.
The path men tread was never meant for me. Mine is paved with blood and darkness.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video about terrifying bosses that you got to play as. If you would like to watch more of this kind of thing, we have other videos for you. Up here is one from us. Down here is one from Outside Extra. And if you click on one of those, you get to play as your boss in real life. So take that, Terry. I assume your boss is called Terry. If not, maybe get a job working for Terry, and then you get to be Terry. Enjoy.